Councilmember Coffey.
Present.
Councilmember Olson.
Here.
Councilmember Sharkey.
Here.
Councilmember Rowe.
Here.
Councilmember McDermott.
First time in the history of me being with the city that I remember doing this on a Thursday, celebrating and honoring Martin Luther King, and 3 days of training, which I want to thank our newly elected officials for going down, donating 3 days of your time for the training is very good of you, and I appreciate you doing that. And everybody, I really enjoyed the fact that everybody went to the regional training that we had several weeks ago, our legacy council members and our new ones. And I appreciate all the training and the hard work and the studying and the questions you did and the classes you attended. Now it's a little on the job training and you're going to be up to speed and ready to go. Thank you. Thank you for that. For the council's information, we do department head reports every year. All of our department heads do them. Retha will send you by email electronic version of those or electronic link to see them. If you'd like a printed copy of the annual reports from the department heads, just let Retha know and she'll print off a copy and get you a copy. And while we're talking about department heads, over the years, we've had department heads attend this meeting and not attend this meeting. The policy has always been that if they have business with the council, something is on the agenda that they need to address, they'll be here. But they're also here for you to ask questions. And if you want to get information, the department heads usually come for that purpose. And I'm going to ask the council, do you want them to continue to come for questions that you may have after the reports, after they do their reports at the end of the meeting? Or am I free to tell them only to be here when they have business? And it's entirely up to you. And I'm just asking for a consensus. If you want them here, we'll have them here. If you don't want them here, they work very hard. And if they can have an evening off, I'm perfectly content
The
to do
meetings
that.
that I've attended, I think it's their presence has been just right. They didn't interfere with anything. They presented things they need to. They don't need to be here at every meeting, I don't believe.
Okay. Well, I will encourage them. Is that?
Yeah, I second that.
So yeah, only if they had business,
Yeah.
if we had questions on an item, but other than that.
And I will say, Mr. Mayor, they enjoy that policy.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, they work very hard, and if they can have an evening off with their families, I'm good with that. The way I'm going to leave it with them, if they have something they need to bring to the council, a question or something they want to tell us, I will encourage them to be here. Or if there's an item on the agenda that involves their department, I won't have them here. But other than that, if there's nothing going on, I don't see a reason to have them here. All right. With that, how about we request approval of the January 2nd meeting?
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? The minutes of the December 4th Board of Works and Safety meeting are council's misspelled on this, is in your packet for your information. Do we have any unfinished business? I don't see any. So we'll get on to new business. Resolution 2024-864, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Angola adopting the City of Angola Title VI Implementation Plan 2024. Amanda, you want to make those few comments?
Yeah, so this is a plan that we actually have a resolution on file, and the city is essentially mandated to update this and look at this on an annual basis. Title VI deals with anti-discrimination and making sure that we have the proper documents and plans in place should we ever have any claims or any issues against that. It's also a requirement to get any federal funds for transportation or any NDOT related projects. So this is just an update of the plan. It's largely just updated dates. I don't even think any of the ADA or the Title VI coordinator personnel has changed.
Any questions?
It's good that we do this on this week. I move to approve.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Resolution 2024-865, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Angola, Steuben County, Indiana, approving the deduction from personal property assessed valuation for the installation of new manufacturing equipment, all located within an economic revitalization area within the City of Angola, Indiana. This is for Univertical. Isaac, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Dave Martin. I got to get used to all these.
I'm still getting used to it too.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Welcome, Councilmember Sharkey, Councilmember Rowe, and Councilmember Coffey. And of course, I can't go out with, or I can't go forward, I should say, without also welcoming back Councilmember Olson. Looking forward to working with you all. I'm very excited, as I always am when I present these types of projects. Of course, they go through a thorough review process within my organization, working with the city departments as well. Univertical is one of our great cornerstone organizations. They do some big things and people often drive by them and don't realize. At the start of, for instance, we were just talking about this, Michelle Orrin and I, who's right back here. She's a controller, by the way, for Univertical. She gets all the hard questions here in a little bit. Actually, don't do that to her. She just had auditors leave her organization. So we'll do this together. But one of the cool things that we produce right here within the city of Angola, within Steuben County, is the copper that's used in any Intel Pentium processor comes from Angola. This is the cool stuff that this company does. And we get to participate in these expansion processes often. I'm here today to present to you with Rochelle and Univertical two requests. One is personal property. The other is a real property. In total, the personal property side of the equation is about $870,000 in terms of some equipment specific to the semiconductor space. Okay, again, another hot topic within economic development. And then the the real property side is $235,000. Actually, I said that backwards. I'm sorry. No, I said that right. Didn't
You said it right.
Okay. I confused myself for a second. So in this case, I would normally score these two appropriately. Historically, the state of Angola has accepted and realized on most cases, real property generally has the ability to be phased in over 10 years on a traditional sliding scale, 100% down to 10%. In this case, as I'm combining now these two resolution requests, in this case, the tail end of that tax abatement, we really have to look at the cost savings that the company is going to potentially receive based on the assessor's valuation of that property. And in this case, the time spent on doing the CF1s and coming back to council on a regular basis usually costs the company more to keep the abatement. So what I've tried to do is modify the abatement to the front end. And actually, in this case, pair it with the personal property. Now it's 5 years. Your 5-year personal property is a typical traditional sliding scale abatement that the city council has approved in the past, not only for Univertical, but for others. But I felt, as I did and gave you in my January 9th letter and email, I felt I needed to explain that a little bit better. There is a full-blown Excel process that we go through. Anybody wants to take a look at it, you might need to borrow David's glasses to be able to see it. It is pretty small. Or maybe Mayor Martin's glasses, depending on the
Magnifying glasses.
depending on the person. But again, there's a thorough process that we go through. The tax abatement itself, for new members of council, not because of ignorance, but to be transparent, the tax abatement is on future assessed tax dollars, not on present. It doesn't zero anything out. That's probably the biggest myth that we have to address normally with the common public, which is fine. We welcome those questions and concerns. But in this case, these two abatements combined are roughly an estimated savings, which again, the assessor has the final say. We're looking at about $42,000 over a 5-year period. So I'd welcome any questions. I'll take the hard ones for the benefit of you.
I'll give you the easy question. They make Intel processors.
No.
No. It's the copper.
The material supply chain sort of starts at Univertical, right? We make the billets that then go into the supply chain that start process.
Okay.
This is not, is it Isaac? This isn't new real estate. It's the existing real estate. It's not a real estate purchase.
Correct, Councilman. So the Indiana Code allows us to look at abatements on two different sides of the real estate. side. One is new construction, which most of the time you can see, especially if they're adding to the outside of the building. In this case, they're adding new taxable construction within its four walls, which sometimes you don't always see. Another classic example of that, which we did, it's probably been 4 years ago now, is when Miller Poultry, one of our largest employers in our county, just looking at the manufacturing space, added 26,000 square feet of a second floor, which didn't exist inside the building prior. So it would be things like that.
Trying to picture where they would move to, and I figured it had to be the existing real estate.
Yes, yes. But it is considered new taxable real estate, which the code does allow us to abate.
So one question on, and I think this is just for tax abatement in general, so you can help me understand a little bit. The statement, this assumes that the company will remain in business at the same location for the next 15 years. So if there's a change within that 15-year period, and this is for 5 years, how does that?
So what that refers to is our calculation sheet looks and projects as its tax benefit out 15 years.
Okay.
We have to make some assumptions. Now, if a company were to move, you as council have the ability to terminate all abatements per that company that year. That's the compliance part that Univertical and others, we're actually starting right now, are due by April 15th. You'll have that ability to either strike a company in compliance or in non-compliance. And then at that point, either the abatement stays in place for the duration of its period or it's gone. This 15-year is a projection of its benefit should the company stay. So I have to do that for the calculations of my side, the benefit side and its cost structure side, not necessarily if they leave, what happens, if that makes sense.
They're required by law to submit their compliance with the tax abatement. And those forms will be coming throughout the year. And it gives the council a chance to review, is the company living up to what they promised they would do for the abatement that you granted? And then the council will either find them incompliant or not incompliant. And in which they find them not incompliant, then the process stops. Or if you're in compliant, obviously to continue, but you will review that on an annual basis. Every one of them, they're required to file with us and through the county.
So that's part of our fee for service that we have contractually with the city of Englewood and all other jurisdictions within the county. That is a service that we provide. So we monitor and work with over 70 now tax abatements.
Mm-hmm.
Each year I'm working with Rochelle and then Rochelle's counterparts and all the other businesses to confirm, again, numbers, reports, CF1s, which are the compliance forms. I gave you the date of April 15th, not because of tax period, but that is a reporting period that we have to have it back that you will need to sign off on, so that then by May 15th, the auditor can sign off. And that's when it becomes official. They're in compliance. So it's a firestorm the first part of the year with these tax abatements, specifically the compliance piece.
Thank you.
His spreadsheet takes an analytical approach to the value of the tax abatement that the city is willing to offer, and has a scientific outcome within the spreadsheet to derive what kind of abatement we want to offer. We can offer up to 10 years or offer 100% up to 10 years. In this case, we're offering 5 years. That's what the spreadsheet said made the most sense to do. So it's an analytical approach that Isaac uses.
So one piece I would like to point council to, and if you don't have the printout, I would advise you to go back to that January 9th email and letter that I provided. Mm-hmm. On the third page, down towards the bottom, there's a number called Project ROI. You'll see in this one, it's $33.65 roughly. All right. So that number is something I like to point to in the sense of saying, okay, if you were to take that dollar, that city dollar, and invest it, you're earning in this case 330% return on that investment, if that makes sense. So we're trying to give you a comparison in dollar sense of saying it's not giving away taxes. The taxes don't exist yet, but this is the type of investment that we're looking at when we include both direct and indirect aspects of the project. I'd be happy, by the way, I've offered this before. I believe Dave sat with me through it. Any council member who wants to go through that calculation sheet with me, fine. I'd love to have the audience. I might bore you, but you'll get an inside peek.
Thank you for your podcast on tax abatement.
Oh. Or listen to the podcast.
That was
then you
a
won't
fun
have to.
25 minutes.
You can do that too, yeah. I forgot about that, yeah.
Michelle, anything you'd like to add?
We're really trying to put investment in the semiconductor space. We believe it's an opportunity for Univertical, but also an economic opportunity for Steuben County here. And it's definitely a high growth segment in an area that we would like to focus on.
City of Angola, at least, I have always appreciated you being here. You're one of our better employers, one of our better partners. We have a long history with Univertical ever since you moved into the community and took over a abandoned building that was really a huge problem for us and filled it up and worked with us through a very difficult EPA issue with an environmental cleanup. We're just glad to have you here, and we're very pleased to partner with Univertical.
We approve the resolution as presented.
Motion
Second.
and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Resolution 2024-866, a resolution of the Common Council of the City of Angola, Steuben County, Indiana, approving the deduction from real property assessed valuation for the installation of new manufacturing equipment, all located within the economic revitalization area within the City of Angola, Indiana, for Univertical. And I suppose we can make all your comments ditto.
Ditto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Request approval, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Request approval list of outstanding warrants declared canceled as of December 31st, 2023, outstanding and unpaid from 2021 for $4,628.68.
Move to approve, but I want to talk about them.
Second.
Motion second.
Brian, these are warrants that people won't pay.
No, these are checks that we have written that were never cashed.
So these people, in essence, are losing the money that we didn't do. They wouldn't cash the money, they didn't want our money.
They didn't want our money, so
I like people like them.
our checks stayed on them, but they're no good after 2 years, basically. So this is a housekeeping thing that we have to do. We have to get council approval to cancel them, and then we receipt those funds back into the appropriate spots.
We don't send it to that Indiana fund thing where
This, for these sorts of things, this is the way that is prescribed by the state for us to handle.
Actually, I wanted to be sure we keep it. No offense, but I bet we keep it.
They want your money.
All right, the clerk treasurer's depository statement, cash. Oh, did I miss something? Oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? All right, now we'll move on to the clerk depository statement. I'm just so excited about you. Just wanted to get to it so quickly. And cash reconciliation statement for the month ending December 2023 is presented for your information. Reports. Brian, do you have anything for us?
None for me, Matt.
Anything from the law department, Ken?
No, nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
Jennifer? Nothing? Scott?
Nothing.
Town looks good. Roads look nice.
Took us a minute. I think we missed it.
Yeah. Matt?
No report, Mayor.
Amanda?
The lights at Harrington, Dave, I had responded back working on that, but I guess I just want to put a bug in your ears so you guys can think about this. So lights in general, we're having similar issues in Reddington Heights, where some lights are city lights, some are not city lights. Some utility companies will locate the wires that go to the poles and some will not. It's just kind of a convoluted issue that we're working on, but we talk a lot in here on drainage and detention ponds and defunct homeowners associations and who's going to take care of that. So our current ordinances, the city does not take over ownership of streetlights anymore. And so new subdivisions that go in, all the streetlights that they have to put in, they become part of the association. In talking with Chad and Scott and the street department, we foresee that maybe years down the road, we could be in the same issue with streetlights that we are with detention ponds, especially as more fiber companies come in and are hitting lines and more, utilities go underground and that space gets more and more confined. I'm not saying we need to change anything. I'm not saying we need to do anything different, but it's just something to think about that a utility right now, or infrastructure, I guess I should say, is put on the shoulders of a homeowners association and a development. Is that good? Is that bad? And are we going to have issues in the future? So
What happened was the entrance light to Heights subdivision is attached to like a sign that says Harrington Heights, here it is, and then not only the light to the sign, but also an electrical light is both out. So I asked her to take a look at it. That's what that's all about.
Yeah.
My concern on this whole thing is, if I'm reading what you're saying, is that if I have a association, ultimately they could be responsible for those lights.
they are responsible currently.
But if I put a light, as my ex-councilman Gary Crum did, in an area that is not association, and whose light's that?
So on areas like when,
Reddington has no association.
yeah, when Gary wanted,
Gary wanted a light by over there.
that is a city-owned light. We are,
I don't think the taxpayers are gonna say, well, this is a city light, this is an association light. They're gonna say, this is city light. And I think we all be aware of that, because if you have it, you will start getting phone calls about streetlights. And then because they're concerned about safety, it's a safety issue in our city. And I've been one who likes to have as many lights as we can, because I think it makes it easier for us to prevent crime and keep kids know when they need to be home and all that sort of stuff like that. I'm worried about having the associations, because not that I'm worried about paying the money. It goes back to some associations we have found never were created. Some of them have obviously been bad stewards, and we've seen that in our city, and that worries me.
yeah, and I think something in this entire conversation, or if we ever get there, we talk about street lights out or it's dark here.
Sure.
Those are the easy things, but we get sometimes 100 utility locates that come in. Now, if the city now owns every single light, who is locating that? Who's doing those locates? Who's ensuring that they're not getting hit? I mean, that is a huge
And who's digging?
correct.
Sure.
Yeah. So-
And do we have it in our ordinance, Jennifer, for new subdivisions that they are required to put streetlights up? So we're requiring it, but then we don't take ownership of it currently, is how it's.
It's the same way with detention
Okay.
as well.
Just something to think about. Again, I'm not asking for anything to change or be different, but as these things have kind of cropped up and as, street department and myself, we dig a little deeper, it's like, ooh, this could be something in the future.
Okay, I'd like you to can you get with Amanda and kind of give us sometime in the future your thoughts on this?
Mr. Mayor, may I inquire? Amanda, are you suggesting a possible scenario where the streetlights would be dedicated to the city and we would take them over like we do sewer and street? Is that a possibility that you're suggesting we might look at?
Possibility. I mean, I think there's.
Part of the reason, I'm sorry.
There's a lot of additional things that are attached to that. And the city used to do that. That used to be the policy. And it got to a point, how I understand it, because it was pre-me, but how I understand it was they were not being installed correctly. They were not to the right depth. We couldn't get as-built. It was just, so then the city said, and the council or whomever made that decision said, no more. We're not going to take them on anymore
Yeah,
and have that headache.
yeah, okay. Yes,
Have you,
But it goes back to, now you're creating, this light is a city light and this light is a private entity, in essence, is light. And and as a city, I think that puts some problems with crime prevention. I don't know, I'd like to.
That certainly makes a lot of sense. I'm not a big fan of private subdivisions running their own show out there. I think the city is what better set to control the streets and the sidewalks and probably the streetlights as well. Makes sense. But
And I don't want to speak for your department, but I'm gonna say I don't think that they have the manpower to take that on, that task.
okay.
Is that fair?
Yes.
So, I mean, that all goes into this.
It's more than locating. The problem's more than that. And I know when Frontier was out, that Tom Selman was out all the time.
Mhm.
Every time somebody gets a hookup, he doesn't have people to go out and mark those things.
Right.
And is it the same kind of problem, Scott, that you guys are going to face, or is it something else?
If it comes down to having to locate for them, yeah. But we also change the bulbs and the ones that we maintain.
Purple bulbs or the
Speaking of which, we have started work on the new lights. They've been sanded. They're getting ready to be painted and installed.
It comes down to, it's just another utility at the end of the day that has to be maintained and taken care of for the long haul.
Yeah.
But I think that in a previous meeting, we had our issue regarding when a developer comes in and says, here's how I'm going to develop this subdivision. And I'm sorry, I speak for you. Your suggestion was before, when the city takes over, we want to make sure that the drainage is done as they told us they could do this.
Mhm.
We have the standards clearly in the lighting in our ordinances that we can say, here's what the lights are going to be. And if they're not our lights, then the developer can simply say,
Who goes out and makes sure that they buried it 4 feet instead of 1 foot? I mean, they'll tell you they did, but they didn't.
That is the location of the actual pole and the light.
that's the easy part.
Easy part. You can stand there and say, oh, that's not great. But unless you have someone walking side by side with them as they're trenching it in, which is just really knifing it in this far down. I mean, that is the difficult part. Are we putting it in a location that isn't going to cause problems in the future if the city is going to take over that?
And to me, it comes down to our infrastructure plans that get approved and accepted eventually by Board of Works. And that needs to be part of it.
have you reached out to other communities on their lighting policies and procedures and how they operate?
Informally, yes, but I'll make a note to the next city engineer monthly meeting to ask that of, how do you guys handle that? Does everyone take over everything? But, and some communities have their own electric company, so that's easy, whereas we don't. So it would be a utility, but a utility that we don't make money off of and really own. It's just we now own some private wires
Light bulbs.
and light bulbs, lots of light bulbs.
That are purple.
So that's all I had, just something to kind of think about.
Yeah, definitely.
Now's a good time to adjust this because we're not doing a lot of infrastructure building in the middle of winter. Would you agree?
Yes.
I'm not thinking anything right now,
I
so.
would agree.
Councilmember Rowe, Councilmember Sharkey are on the lighting committee. You want them to take a look at that and come up with a recommendation and possibly get back to it? And thoughts on handling it that way?
No, that'd be fine. Yeah.
Councilmember Sharkey, Councilmember Rowe, you good for that? Yes. Let's do it that way then. Anything else? I lost my place. This went on so long. I'm over here now? Okay. Report. All right. Request approval of accounts payable voucher 66588 through 66884 totaling $1,228,471.20, which includes interfund transfers of $355,146.85.
Who to approve?
Second. Motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Other new business, I apologize, we didn't have all the appropriate documents ready to get them on the agenda. But there are two documents in front of you. There's an assignment of a tax sale certificate, and there's also an agreement that I'm going to be asking council approval for me to execute both of those documents. A little background, a building at 108 South Wayne Street has a very unique ownership structure. It's owned by three different owners, three different areas of the building. They're not partners, they're totally unrelated individuals, but they own different pieces of the same building. The building is, for lack of a better way to describe it, is the one that's on South Wayne, has the curved glass right across the street from the courthouse.
Right next to me.
The front first floor is owned by an LLC that we have not been able to locate. We have sent them registered letters, and those registered letters have come back refused. The back half of the lower level is owned by a local businessman. The second floor, which does not go very far back, it's only 30, 40 feet deep, is owned by a third individual. The lower level first floor is in extreme disrepair. It has not had its taxes paid for years. It has been up for tax sale multiple times with nobody ever bidding on it, which kind of defines the value of it as being worthless. And I've been in the building, and our building people have been in, Amanda's been in it to look at it. It has suffered water infiltration from a bad roof. There is rot and decay in some of the structure of the building. It needs to be taken care of. It needs to be fixed. We need to have a responsible owner. So what we've come up with is the city has approached the county on the tax sale and asked the county if they would forgive all of the existing tax liens and basically deed or transfer ownership of that building to the city. The city doesn't want it. We don't want to be responsible. In my opinion, it's more of a liability than the value of it. We have found a contractor that is willing to accept responsibility, Daniel Reithold, which is the agreement, the second document that you have. He's willing to accept responsibility for rehabbing the building, bringing it up to code and making the necessary repairs. I believe we have been told that he has a arm's length bargain with the back portion of the building's owner to buy the entire lower level. And he has reached an agreement, as we understand it, with the gentleman that owns the second floor above him. So at least we will have one owner that owns all of the lower level, and he will bring the building back up to standards. And that is basically the transaction that we have. It's a two-part transaction. The city will accept assignment of the tax sale certificate. I'm going to ask you to approve that. And I'm going to ask you to approve the agreement with Dan Reinhold, transferring responsibility to him. Do you have any questions?
I have two. When you said that we sent certified letters and they were refused, does that mean that the person didn't want to accept it, or that was not deliverable?
I'll leave that question to Kim.
They wouldn't accept it.
So there's somebody there.
Well, it's an LLC in Arizona, and it's just like shouting in a barrel. No response, whatever. I've written them for over the years, and they're absolutely
They're just
unresponsive.
they want to walk away. Sounds like.
Absolutely, yes.
Is the building right now? Is it safe at all?
It needs extensive repair to
So-
make it
so-
usable.
So right now is a potential, I'm a school teacher, that it could fall down.
No, it's not a potential to fall down, but it's uninhabitable. You wouldn't want to spend very much time in it. There's probably mold.
Okay.
It's this ceiling tile rotting away in piles on the floor and things like that. There's no food or waste, but it's not habitable at this point.
The back half was acquired at tax sale. The taxes, one time it had one owner on both front and back. The fellow that bought it didn't want to buy the front half, and their property description allowed it to be sold in halves. He bought the back half, which was in much better condition than the front half. He put up a firewall between the two sections, and he's been using the back half as storage. Mr. Reinhold was not interested in the front half unless he could obtain the back half. He has signed this agreement to accept it, so I'm assuming, and it's none of our business, but I'm assuming he has a bargain to buy the back half.
Mr. Mayor, you did a good job of describing the situation. Let me, if I may, boil it down. There's $22,000 or $23,000 of back taxes and assessments on this property. Been up for sale numerous times. As the mayor said, nobody's bidding on it. The only way to make those taxes disappear is for the county to convey the property to a municipality. We get it tax-free. That's the only way to cancel out the taxes and then make the place, saleable. So we're going to accept title and then convey it to this gentleman who's going to fix it up. So we just accept it, wipes out the taxes. We're going to give it to him and improve that property. And I'm very confident he will follow through. He's a contractor. He's been in there. He knows what he's doing. So we'll have a nice, viable property, which is long overdue to be updated. This thing has been a mess for 10 years anyway.
I'm for 15 or 20.
15 or 20.
Long time.
Yeah.
So how do you want us to do this? Do you want us to do?
The mayor needs your
Two
vote
motions, or-
to authorize him to sign both agreements.
Dave, I'm confused. The second story is still going to be in the hands of this LLC, is that?
No,
No.
the second story will be owned by a local businessman that
Owns it now.
owns the building in front of it. He owns the old Bassett Restaurant,
Okay.
and it connects
So
to
he's
the
still going to
second
have,
floor.
okay, I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
The LLC is on the first floor. then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And that's part of the tax situation.
Yeah, that's the entire
Okay,
tax.
that's what I want to be sure. They haven't been paying the taxes.
Infinity or something, I think is the name, Infinity LLC.
Infinity.
Infinity LLC
Okay.
is the registered.
And then is it George that's going to is that his name that runs the shop?
He has the second floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's the one that's going to maintain that.
Yeah, matter of fact, he got a grant to rehabilitate
Right,
part of the second
that's
floor, and he's put some money into the second floor.
And this Reinhold he's a young man, isn't he? Kind of
That's local.
Yeah,
he's wiry built. I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
he and his brother are partners.
Yeah, and they've done this business for years. Okay.
Yeah.
I agree. These are very
Your dad is.
I'll tell you the story about how that got chopped up sometime. It's a convolute, too much for
Does
this
anybody
meeting,
have any
but it's
problems?
interesting to a lawyer.
No problem. Just one other question. So this process essentially is putting it back on the tax roll
As
once it's
as
conveyed.
soon as he owns it, as soon as
Yes, as
Mr.
soon
Reinhold
as
owns
he
it, it will
owns
be
it.
back on both front and back of the lower level will be back on the tax roll, and he will have to pay taxes on it. He will have to get building permits. He will have to get state permits. He will have to bring it up to codes. It's very well spelled out in this agreement what our expectations of him are for. Basically, he's getting this building in the lot, no charge.
Yep.
But he's going to have to put a lot of money in it to bring it back up to standard, and a lot of work.
Does he plan on putting in a business there, or he's just fixing it up to sell it, or what's
I can't answer that, and quite frankly, I don't think I mean, we've got enough zoning and permitting pieces in place. He'll have to comply with. He'll have to comply with everything that we have on the book.
Give me a haircut there.
No big mic for you.
I think this is something we should do. So I move that we give the mayor the necessary agreements to is taken care of.
I second it.
Thank you. Motion second, any discussion?
I think it's great. I think it's been a
Yeah,
pigsty for years and it needs to stop. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
yes,
It's either that or we get stuck tearing it down.
Bergen and Bryan used to be there.
Yeah.
Anyway, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right, is there any other new business? Hearing none, the next meeting of the Common Council will be Monday. We'll get back to our Monday schedule, February 5th. Thank you all. Where's the original?
They're right here.